Warm greetings from the High 10. It is Everyday Shenanigans on this Friday, October 16, 2020. I'd like to bring you an update pertaining to the death of George Floyd. And if you need verification for the storyline, please log on to the New York Post. Newly released court papers reveal that Minneapolis cops kept George Floyd pinned to the ground for 9.5 minutes, longer than they previously thought, and never tried to resuscitate him as he lay dying. The narrative filed by Minnesota state prosecutors this week seeks additional evidence to be used in the cops' upcoming trial and contends that the four officers rebuffed repeated requests to save Floyd and held him down much longer than the previously reported Star Tribune reported. After Floyd fell silent, the crowd alerted the officers 10 times that Floyd was no longer moving, warned them 9 times that Floyd was unresponsive, and pleaded with them nearly 30 times to check Floyd's pulse, according to papers filed by Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison. The account is the most detailed yet into Floyd's May 25th police custody death while being arrested by Centre cops Derek Chauvin, J. Alexander Queen, Thomas Lane, and Tu Tao. The paper said Floyd was held down much longer than the 7 minutes and 46 seconds or 8 minutes and 46 seconds previously reported. Over that time, Ellison said Chauvin kept his knee on Floyd's neck for more than 4.5 minutes after he stopped moving. For at least 3 of those minutes, Floyd appeared not to be breathing, the prosecutor wrote, and for at least 2.5 minutes, the officers were unable to locate Floyd's pulse. At one point, Chauvin rebuffed Lane's suggestion to turn Floyd on his side. Chauvin rejected that option out of hand, telling Lane and Queen to stay at where you got him. The document said, just leave him. Chauvin also threatened to mace an off-duty Minnesota firefighter who witnessed the incident when she offered to provide medical attention. The officers also ignored the off-duty firefighter's plea for them to be chest compressions, the court filing said. Indeed, none of the officers attempted CPR while Floyd was on the ground. When paramedics arrived, Chauvin kept his knee on Floyd, who was rushed to a local hospital where he was pronounced dead. The state prosecutors' narrative also contends that the cops also scoffed at the bystanders' pleas, with Teo telling them he's talking, so he's fine, while Floyd pleaded that he couldn't breathe. This is why you don't do drugs, kids. Ellison also wants the ex-officer's histories of use of force to be admitted as evidence, including a contention that Chauvin allegedly delivered a few strikes and applied a neck restraint to a juvenile while working off duty as a security guard. Chauvin is facing murder charges in this case, and the 3 cops are accused of aiding and abetting murder. And this was updated 10/14/20. So as you see, the state is contending that Derek Chauvin held George Floyd down for 9 minutes. Just want to make sure I get this correct. So instead of the 7 minutes and 46 seconds or 8 minutes and 46 seconds, they're contending that he was held down for 9 minutes. I was trying to bring up the exact number. Basically, he kept him down for 4.5 minutes after Floyd stopped moving. So basically, the state is saying, when the officer, Mr. Chauvin, and others realized he was not moving, why in the hell was Chauvin's knee still on Mr. Floyd? In the end, it won't even matter if it's 1 minute later, 5 seconds later. The fact is that you killed the man in cold blood in front of people while your officer stood by making nasty remarks to the public, threatening to mace another bystander, whether she was a firefighter or not. It just looks good on paper to say, oh, well, they tried to mace a firefighter. Off-duty firefighter. The point is she was human and she noticed that the man wasn't moving and that you killed this man in front of her. So it wouldn't matter if Mickey Mouse was standing there watching you or a child. What you did was wrong and foul and vile, and you violated this man's civil rights. And to sit up and say, don't do drugs, kids, well, whether he was on drugs or not, that's what you assumed he was on. He could have been on alcohol. Who's to say? He could have been on some other meds. I don't know, because I don't know George Floyd. The point still remains, you all use your own judgment to justify the act of murdering a man in cold blood while in custody over an alleged fake $20 bill. And I'm saying it because it's the spoken word. This is my open letter to Mr. Derek Chauvin and them other clowns that rode the ride on May 25th. Mr. Chauvin, you've been afforded the opportunity to walk the streets now because some ignorant people decided to bond you out using their property to get you out of jail. Why in the hell they did that, I don't know. But I want you to know that we know, those of us who are sane and woke, know you murdered George Floyd in cold blood on May 25th. Your comrades stood idly by without aiding any type of help, CPR, to help save and preserve Mr. Floyd's life. So don't think because you are now free that you are really free. Ask some of us about freedom. Yeah, Queen keeping it 100. You may walk around breathing and talking and thinking you can roam to the next state over until trial, but know that there will always be someone watching. There will always be someone listening. And you will now get to see what it's like to walk around looking and lurking and looking over your shoulder and wondering when the day will come when someone will snuff your ass out like how you did Mr. George Floyd. And I pray, and I know this is a terrible thing to say, but I don't care because I'm tired of people like you walking around breathing and acting like your shit don't stink. I want you to be afraid for your life. I want you to walk around wondering the day somebody's going to bang you upside your skull, wondering if you're going to have a nasty accident. Come on with it. Because what you did to that man was sickening. And from my understanding, you really don't have a great record with the police department. Hell, you're not even a decent citizen to pay your taxes on time. Yeah, you're that guy. The guy who's been afforded the opportunity to sit in position of a high position, a position of power, and walk around wielding a baton and an attitude as you see fit against innocent civilians on and off duty, not paying your taxes to the state, you and your wife. You're foul. You don't care. And people like you are empty vessels. You have no empathy because deep inside there's a black hole. And you need to know that there's always going to be someone around watching you. And don't think you're going to be able to sneak around with baseball caps on and hoodies and nobody's going to know who you are. There is always going to be somebody knowing that's Derek Chauvin, the guy that killed George Floyd and had no remorse. Yeah, you're that male, that stinking pig that killed George Floyd. And I don't think you have any remorse. You don't strike me as a man who has remorse. And your other comrades don't have remorse because anybody with some sense would have pulled you off that man and said, okay, that's enough. You're that man. And what you need to know is that I am George Floyd. Other civilians are George Floyd, whether they are white, black, green, Chinese, Arabic, or Jew, Hispanic. We are entitled to roam the earth as we see fit, and we are entitled to be treated with respect, whether we are being investigated for a crime or just walking our dog, going to and fro. We are allowed to be treated with respect. And on that day, May 25th, you took all that away from that man. And you made your own assumptions about him. And I do believe you knew of George Floyd and you realized who he was on that fateful day when you encountered him. And you had some type of issue, vendetta with this man. I'm saying it because it seems that something was going on behind closed doors. You are sad, sad sap of flesh. And know that no matter whatever happens in court, whether 12 members find you guilty, not guilty, you still have to stand atone for what you did to that man. And you may not stand account for what you did to George Floyd in this life, but you surely will in the afterlife. And I can say, I feel nothing for you or the other males who watched idly and did nothing to aid in George Floyd's preservation of life. I don't doubt that one day you will walk somewhere thinking you're okay, you're safe, you've let your guard down, and you will encounter the same heinous maliciousness that you gave George Floyd. And in that instance, you'll probably beg for your life, the same as George Floyd did. And there'll be no one to come aid you as well. Like, share, subscribe. Drop your comments below. This is Everyday Shenanigans. You all have a prosperous and safe weekend. Mask up, America. Thanks. Thanks, my fans and new friends. Patricia, how are you doing? Everybody, thanks for listening. This is my message today. This is my message to Mr. Chauvin. My message to many police officers and other civilians. You don't have the right to take anyone's life. It's not self-defense. You don't have the right to kill another human being. And that's the spoken word. I'm out of here. Bye-bye.